We'll get to the famous beaches in just a moment. But first up, let's catch up with the Federal Education Minister Dan Tehan. Joins us live from Hamilton in Western Victoria. Beautiful shot there with the Grampians in the background. Thanks for joining us, Dan.
Pleasure, Chris, and it is a lovely spot, and let's hope if we can keep flattening the curve, get those restrictions lifted, we'll be able to see plenty of domestic tourists come and visit the Grampians and undertake some of the wonderful walks that can take place there.
Yeah, I can't wait to. I'll have to zip past the Grampians on my way to Mount Gambier, catch up with my folks. Dan, tell us about these threats from China. Beijing now threatening Australia when it comes to trade, but importantly for your portfolio, one of the threats is specifically about overseas students. Now, they're not here at the moment because of coronavirus. The last thing we want is for China to keep them away once we get through this pandemic.
Well, Chris, the government's position, I think, is a very clear and a very straightforward one. We want to make sure that there is a proper and transparent review of the origins of COVID-19, and we want all countries to cooperate with that investigation. And I don't think we need to see China responding like they have. I mean, this is very much us wanting to work with the Chinese government, with all other governments, to make sure that we can get to the bottom of what led to COVID-19 so that we can put all the steps in place internationally to prevent something like this occurring again. So my hope is that the Chinese will understand exactly what we're asking and will fully cooperate in a transparent manner.
There's no doubt that what Australia's asking, what the government's asking for, is absolutely spot on and reasonable, and China should agree to it and not retaliate the way it has. Are you disappointed at the level of support you've got from other governments? We need to see other governments in Europe, North America, around the world making the same position clear.
Yeah, look, it would be good if we could get international consensus on our approach that we've suggested. It's plain common sense, really. We've had an outbreak. We know where that outbreak occurred of this pandemic, and we should be able to fully investigate it. And we do need the support of all other nations to make sure that occurs. And my hope is that as we continue to flatten the curve here and across the world, then other nations will come on board so that we can fully investigate the origins of COVID-19 and make sure that we can put in place the policies that need to be put in place globally to stop a similar pandemic from occurring into the future.
Now, this bullying from China and the fact that they could turn off the tap of a multi-billion-dollar industry, does that not just expose how short-sighted and perhaps greedy our universities have been, making themselves so reliant on selling education to Chinese students? They should be desperately trying to diversify.
Well, one of the key messages that the government has been giving our higher education sector is of the importance to make sure that they do have diversified markets. And I must say they had been looking at India and other countries to diversify. As a matter of fact, India was the fastest growing market in the international education space when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So it's one of the things that we'll continue to work with the higher education sector on, is to making sure that we do have a diversity into our international student market, because whether it's international students, whether it's wool, whether it's wheat, whether it's dairy, obviously the more diversified your markets are, the better it is to secure your income and your growth.
Now, what about the schools around Australia? We've got kids going back in some states. They're dribbling back slowly in New South Wales. Queensland, Victoria seems to be the most resistant. Are you encouraged? Do you think you're starting to win this argument that the kids never should have been shunned from schools in the first place? There's been consistent medical advice, but now the states seem to be relenting, albeit slower than a lot of us would like.
Yeah, look, I think we are. We've set the aim that we'd love all students back at school being taught in the classroom by the end of May, and our hope is that we can achieve that. Wouldn't it be a great achievement if we've flattened the curve and had all children back at school by the end of May. I think that'd be wonderful for us.
It's not that great an achievement sorry to interrupt, but it's not that great an achievement when they should all be there right now. And you're talking about even more than another month to get it done.
Well, that's true, and look, you're right. The medical advice has been consistent right along, and the federal government has had a consistent position right along that we should have students at school being taught at school, but states and territories ultimately have the jurisdictional responsibility, so we've got to work with them. So now we've set them a goal which they hope they will achieve, and we are seeing progress. South Australia, your home state, we had first day back for second term, over 60% of students attend, and we think that number will continue to grow.
They never shut their schools.
No, they didn't, and the Northern Territory didn't either, and they're seeing even higher rates of students attend there. Western Australia are also heading down the path to fully open their schools. Year 11 and Year 12 schools are open, and they're encouraging students in all other year levels to attend. We saw Queensland say today that they will now review in early May, so hopefully they will then set that goal of getting all their schools open for classroom teaching by the end of May. New South Wales are starting to put in place policies which will see their schools can grow in attracting students in at all year levels in particular. And then Victoria, our hope is that around early May that they might reconsider their position as well.
I'll tell you one thing that's happened here, Dan Tehan, that none of us probably thought we would ever see, and this is from my very unscientific sampling of parents and teachers parents and students I come in contact with. For perhaps the first time in Australia, we've got kids right around the country hassling their parents saying, when can I go back to school, Mum? When can I go back to school, Dad?
Well, it's a good point. Children, they love school. They love being with their friends. They love learning from their teachers. It's such an essential and important part of their life growing up. And of course they'll say to parents, "Oh, do I have to go to school today?" But they really do enjoy it. And I must say, I think there are children right across the nation who are saying that to their parents, please, let me get back to school. I want to be with my friends. I want to be with my teachers. And I think also for parents, it's been a bit of a lesson as well. I think there's a newfound respect for the role that teachers play in our children's lives and our principals play in running schools. So if there's been one good takeout from this pandemic, I think it's our newfound respect for our teachers. So let's hope that we can get all the kids back to school, all the teachers teaching in the classroom sooner rather than later, because it'll be a fantastic achievement to know that learning is taking place for our children.
Spot on, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure, Chris.